Oh, désolé. J'arrive.
Ça se voit? Je reprends. Photo avant. Merci à tous d'être là. Thank you very much for being here. So we'll proceed with this panel. Someone took my second mic. I don't know where it is. Oh, there it is. I will take it back. Thanks so much. Perfect. So it's been a busy day this morning, so we're definitely thrilled to have such an event here at Villa Albertine. My name is Fabrice, Jaumont, and I have two hats today. I work here at Villa Albertine as education attaché, and I organize with French Morning this event for the last 10 years. And I also am the co-editor of this soon-to-be released book, Speaking the World, which we are going to talk to you about, give you a little preview, a little sample of what we are trying to achieve. Mehdi, Lazar, who is here, is my partner in crime when we started this project. And we were fortunate to have 30 authors, experts, who submitted their chapters, their ideas, their feedback. So it's been a process of love, I would say, because we're all very attached to the topic of multilingualism. And then we also wanted to look at the connection between multilingualism and cultural fluency, in particular in professional settings, in businesses, in workplaces, and how those two things interact and interfere. So I'll let our friends introduce themselves in a nutshell very quickly, and then we'll delve into some questions, and then we'll have room for Q&A afterwards.
Good morning, I'm Pascal Vallet, I'm the Gerring School Principal at the United Nations International School. I've been in New York for the last 10 years. I've been principal in South Korea, I've been head of school in Indonesia, I've been curriculum and technology coordinator in San Francisco, and I'm a teacher from France. If I'm here today, it's because a couple of months ago, Mehdi asked me if I could contribute to this work with the perspective of artificial intelligence. For the last 18 months, I tried to challenge, to provocate the conversation in the K-12 environment on the artificial intelligence in order for the schools to be able to lead also the revolution that is ahead of us, and so to be part of it. And so part of this provocation in some ways lead me to be part of this very interesting experience. And through this experience, I've learned also a lot about AI and learning foreign languages.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Mehdi Lazar. I'm an educator and social scientist, and I work in Boston. I'm the academic director of the International School of Boston in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I've worked in Europe, France and Italy, and in the US for the past 15 years. And I'm really interested in multilingualism, intercultural competence, and intercultural learning, and school leadership and global leadership as well.
Hi everyone, I'm Sergio Adrada-Rafael, and I'm a professor of Spanish and linguistics at the Department of Modern Languages at Fairfield University, which is very close by, it's in southern Connecticut. I've been working there for about 10 years now, and basically this chapter is one of the areas I explore in my research, multilingualism, bilingualism, from psycholinguistics and social perspectives, and also studying or working abroad. So these are basically the areas that I explore, and I've been living in New York for the last 6 years. So.
Hi, my name is Armineh Petrossian. I'm an elementary school teacher. And,
Closer to your mic.
Okay. I'm not used to with the microphone. Usually my voice carries.
Teacher's voice.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested in the subject. I did my doctoral thesis in it, and well.
Bonjour, I'm Michelle Gerring. I'm a visiting assistant professor of French studies at Susquehanna University in Pennsylvania. Most of my work has been in French and Francophone studies, Quebecois literature, Franco-American relations, those kind of areas. But I lived in Jupiter, Florida for about a year, a couple of years ago, and I saw a number of dual language programs down there, as well as bilingual education programs. I was really inspired to write chapter 9 of this book, Speaking the World. Thank you.
All right, so we have about 30 minutes where we'll be talking and presenting our work, our thinking. And after that, we'll hear from you and take some of your questions. And maybe we'll stay with you, Michelle, because this has been about bilingual education throughout the day. And we heard the benefits of the brain with the previous speakers, bilingualism and the bilingual brain. Can you run us through some of the advantages of dual language and bilingualism that you see from your perspective?
Sure. So in my research, I found several benefits as far as academic performance, including improved fluency in both languages. Also, students tend to perform better on standardized achievement tests like the SAT and the ACT, for example, when they're in these programs. Additionally, they have higher proficiency in reading, in math, and also overall stronger attainment in English. Additionally, they tend to acquire academic vocabulary in English at a faster rate. And then in terms of cognitive development, there's several benefits of when students are enrolled in dual language programs and bilingual education programs, including they tend to have more empathy for other people. Additionally, they tend to communicate better with people who don't speak their language at all. They have more fluent, I would say, fluency and more flexibility as far as communication overall. Additionally, as the last speaker mentioned, they tend to have more protection against developing Alzheimer's and dementia. They tend to have a better working memory, and they also often have better conflict resolution skills. And then, so in children, they found that children tend to have more ability to adapt and switch attention when compared to people raised in a monolingual environment. They tend to develop better social relationships with their family members, their friends, and the community. They have higher executive functioning skills. They're better at solving problems. They can multitask better, and they can also control themselves better. And these benefits have been found in a number of research studies. If anyone's interested in knowing the titles of the articles that I've been working on, I'm happy to share them. And then Fabrice had also asked me to talk a little bit about translanguaging. So that's the use of the student's native language in second language instruction. So translanguaging theory, based on the idea that multilingual brains contain a variety of linguistic resources that can be tapped into as a learner meets his or her communicative goals. Pedagogically, translanguaging encourages the flexible use of language. And then more specific benefits regarding that, in the classroom, students who are in an environment where translanguaging is used, they tend to acquire not only the second language, but also academic content more quickly because they have the first language as a scaffold. Additionally, translanguaging tends to create an environment, for example, in an English language classroom, like ESL classroom, where students collaborate more because the students with the stronger skills often help the ones with the weaker ones or less developed ones. Also, students tend to become more independent learners when they're allowed to translanguage. They use all the resources at hand, including the first language. Also, interestingly, translanguaging also tends to promote the engagement of family members, caregivers, and members of the community in education because they found a lot of connection using their native language in their learning. And lastly, cultural competence is also facilitated by translanguaging. And that's why I would, thank you.
So from benefits, you see, we move into skills very quickly, and then benefits transform into our skills that may be useful later down the line when our kids get to work. And I mean, you see all of those little kids in your classrooms. You see some of these skills emerging, including cultural competence. Could you talk a little bit about what's your take on this?
Yeah. Can I just use without?
Because we're recording.
Okay. What I've been teaching now elementary school for over 20 years, and I'm a bilingual person myself, basically multilingual, if you may, if you can say. What I see is that once you acquire a language, then the second one and the third one, you can build upon it, just like what Michel said. It's very true, because I have in my classroom every year, I would have between 5 and 9 different languages, different cultures. But what is most interesting is that these kids not only learn French, I'm teaching French. So they learn French, but other than French, they learn also the culture that comes with the language. And they also get exposed to all the different languages that are in that one classroom, and the different cultures that go with that classroom, because I think it's a richness to have in a classroom. And you need to tap it, you need to make use of it, make better use of it, because by teaching one language and welcoming all the other languages, what you do, you open up that route towards cultural intelligence. And that is something that you start learning at the beginning. You cannot teach that when they're much older. I mean, it can be taught, but it's not the same. But when you organically grow with it, that's when it becomes part of you. And by not only, it's not the language teaching that is the most important part, in my opinion, is the cultural intelligence that follows, that invites other cultures, invites other languages, invites other, the empathy and understanding of all the other things that follow. And that is the basis of what I see as teaching.
Yes, so it's more than just languages, really. We're now looking at how it affects someone's identity, personality, trust, and this cultural savviness as well. There's some cultural intelligence.
Because once you learn a language, okay, you will learn vocabulary, you will learn grammar, you will learn how to communicate. But what is important is to be really, because the world is becoming closer and closer. I mean, in school you have to, okay, you have classmates that are different from you. But when you go into the business world, then that's where it becomes more important, because you are not dealing with just one culture or one language or one, so you have to be, and that is something, if you teach them from the beginning, that's where it flourishes. I mean, that's where you can make better use of it.
And let's go to Sergio, because we'll push this even further, because Sergio, you've looked at the grown-ups, the students, those that are taking their language skills and they're traveling, they're going for cultural experiences around the world. And what's your take on cultural intelligence then at that age?
Yes, so basically I will connect to what you just said, and it's that by the time they start college, most of them have a very, I would say, idea about the concept of culture, of global cultural competence. So I found that, especially for US students in my, I would say, 17, 18 years teaching in higher education now, it's extremely beneficial for them to study abroad, because I found that, like, I grew up in Spain, and growing up, you watch the news, I knew what was going on in other parts of the world. I'm sure it was the same in France, in other European countries, but here in the US, I find that students in college, you might agree with this, is that they don't really know what's going on outside the US in many cases. So first of all, I think by studying abroad, sure, they'll have linguistic gains, but I think their cultural gains are more important. And they come back with, when I see them, they go study abroad. We have a program in Madrid, for instance. We have programs in France, in Italy. they'll come back to our classes, and I find they have first more empathy. They understand better the needs, what's happening in other countries, the way they think, the way they feel, the different traditions, etc. But also I find that they are more resourceful, and that's an important word, resourcefulness. They become more independent. I see that before studying abroad, they really need the professor's guidance for pretty much everything. They go spend one semester abroad, and they come back, and I can see how most of them are different, behave differently in terms of empathy, in terms of being more resourceful. And then I would also like to mention the fact that employers really value this. So we have an annual fair at my university where employers come from many different regions, but mostly from the New York City because it's so close. And employers mention this, that they want our students to study abroad because they become like more global citizens. They have other ideas. They see the world, what they have to do with a different lens, and that's different when compared to graduates who've never studied abroad, who've never left the U.S. They won't bring that experience to their companies, to the workplace. So I would say these are like the main things they bring back with them after studying abroad. But I would also like to mention that the length of the program is important. We have a summer program, which is like 5 weeks. And what we have found is that, well, maybe 5 weeks is not that long. So I would say at least a semester should be like the minimum length of a study of the program so that we see these effects on them when they come back. And we have them again in our classes.
So we're creating, I would say, better citizens, a better global citizen with
exactly.
a better understanding of today's issues.
Exactly. I would like to use the word global. I think that's the key word, global citizens, yes. Yeah.
Multilingual global citizens of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to Mehdi and let's stay on global and the notion of global competence. And as a director of a school, this is what you also need to nurture in children, global competencies. Run us through what this means.
So you've got two keywords in global competencies. You've got competencies first and then global. Competencies are an ensemble of knowledge, disposition, and skills that anyone really could acquire to be able to perform a certain thing. Those are the things that you need, or resources to be able to perform things in life. You've got to learn things to be able to do things. The task that you perform will be able to allow you to acquire some kind of knowledge, dispositions, or again skills to be able to then perform certain things. And then you've got global. So it's this idea that you've got to acquire competencies to be able to operate efficiently and appropriately in the world at large. So internationally, but not only, there's a matter of dimension there. Internationally is the way we used to look at it. So border crossing, right? Globally is a little different. There is a matter of intensity in it, meaning you could be at home, but also work globally. Many of us do now. You know, you're connected on Zoom and you interact with people that are in different parts of the world, but you also go to your office or you go to your university or school and then you operate and you interact with people that are coming from all over. So even in your own local place, you can have a global outlook and you could need these global competencies, and that's very important. When it comes to change in the quality of the competencies, the globalness brings something different. Back in the day, we used to learn to know. We had to know a certain number of things, dates and facts and procedures. So we will also learn to be able to do. So we will learn those procedures to be able to perform tasks. But nowadays, it's also about learning to be. How do we show up in the world? How do we interact with others? What we call the social skills, right? And when it comes to global competencies, these social skills are a lot about intercultural competence. It's a lot about learning how to interact with people from different cultures, interacting across cultures. It's different from multiculturalism, where we all together from different cultures, but we don't engage on a deeper level with people from different cultures. Interculturalism is about meeting people where they are. It's about connecting deeply with them, and that requires specific competencies such as respect, curiosity, cultural humility, open-mindedness, perspective taking. So there are some attitudes that are required to be able to engage with people on an intercultural level. And then it's also about learning to learn. You know, how do we, in this world that is changing a lot consistently, and this change is accelerating, how are we able to upskill ourselves, or what kind of competencies do we have to be able to learn what we need to learn to reinvent ourselves, continue to change, continue to engage with people from various backgrounds. Those are high-level skills, as you could see, but they're necessary. Basically, what the multilateral institutions will tell us is that you've got three categories: the knowledge or the cognitive, you've got the social emotional or the behavioral, and then you've got the ethical. So and the ethical is important. It's about having this idea that we will respect all cultures. All cultures have something to bring to this world, and they are worthy of our respect. So we want to be curious about them, we want to learn from them, but it's also about having a responsibility for everyone in this world. You know, it's about recognizing our common humanity and that we're all in this, together, and we share this planet. We have a responsibility towards one another. So respect and responsibility are really key when it comes to this ethical part of global competencies. And you find them in, some frameworks, the UNESCO framework. You find that a little bit less, but in the OECD framework, you will find it, and they both came out at the same time, 2018 for the OECD Global Competence Framework, which is now in PISA, if you're interested in PISA testing. And then the UNESCO framework came out in 2017, the 7 global competencies that I'm happy to talk about if later on. Maybe I don't want to take too much time. But so those are the global competencies, really these knowledge, dispositions, and skills that will allow individuals to engage on a global scale, and they're very important.
So the ethical, what were the three?
So cognitive, cognitive operations, as well as metacognitive. Learning to learn is a little bit metacognitive as well. So cognitive, social, emotional, or behavioral. How do I engage with others? Soft skills pretty much, and then ethical. Do I have an interest in others? Do I want to learn from others?
And then artificial.
Yes.
And I'm turning to Pascal.
That's for Pascal.
Please, Pascal, help us understand what's going on, and how do you connect this cultural intelligence with this artificial intelligence, and also the place of language and language learning in the middle of this.
So I'm going to start by talking about a skill that students need to be able to develop to be able to be the leader tomorrow is the humility, to be humble. And the only reason why I could accept in some ways to be characterized as an AI expert in this conversation is through the lens of Socrates, when he said that I know nothing. Because everything needs to be, everything is in front of us, but we can't really see exactly what it's going to look like. So the exercise that I have done, it was more like to try to challenge how AI is going to impact the language acquisition. And I don't know if this intuition of how I'm trying to challenge it is really what's going to happen, but it's likely. And again, because we can't really see more than 3 years ahead of us on how AI is going to impact the world and therefore education. So first, if we look at purely, it's a very simple application of AI today in education, and specifically on learning foreign languages. It's an excellent place to start because AI allows today to increase the possibility for the student to manipulate the language. In class, and at UNIS, for example, the language B class, or the student who learn French or Spanish as a foreign language, is a small ratio. We have an average of 6 students per teacher. And the idea here is to be able to allow the student to have a higher level of interaction with the language. And a teacher who can modelize the language with a smaller numbers of students. Today we can have some AI bot that can converse either in writing or speaking with the student, and not like what we have in the past where the question will be closed, like I ask a question, I have an answer, and once the system has reached the limit of what has been put in the system, then it's over. Now the system is capable to adapt to the student and continue and engage and it's limitless with the student. So there will be, this is not transformative. This is not an AI application that transforms the way we teach. It's just more efficient. But the question I think on AI on education and language acquisition, I find it maybe a bit more interesting to see how it's really going to impact the motivation or the need to learn a different language. And a couple of months ago, there was a conference where one of the guest speakers, a researcher from South America, was saying that we are not going to need to learn a foreign language anymore. And I think for everything we've heard here, there's a need. And so the reason why I wrote this article was to answer to that. And I'm going to take you quickly through this journey. Tomorrow we're going to have some device in our ear that will translate automatically what we say. And so if I talk to a colleague from Japan who will be a mathematician, and let's say that I'm a mathematician, and I will be able to speak French, it's going to translate in Japanese, he will hear it, and he will respond in Japanese, and I will hear it in French. It's happening, there is no doubt that it's happening. Now the difficulty that I will have to, the reason why I need this translation is not because I don't understand mathematics, but because I just don't speak, I don't speak Japanese. But we know, and we know that for what we say here, so being able to discuss with someone from Japan and his relationship with number as something cultural. The way that we see number in France and the way we see number in Japan is different. So the AI that will be in my ear, that will translate my Japanese colleague, will not be enough. However, it's clear that the technicality of the language and the need to learn the technicality of the language is going to be less. Because there is a lot of things, we need to be honest. What we discuss here is beautiful, and I totally agree with that, but there is a need to be able to speak Japanese in order to be able to have some financial exchange with Japan. And many people who have financial exchange with Japan, they have a translator, and they don't bother to learn the culture of the other one. But the limit of the AI will be, for example, when I want to talk about the rainbow to the Yele people from Papua New Guinea, because they use only 3 colors. They only know the red, the black, and the white. And when I talk about the green, they talk about the color of the trees in the spring. And if they talk about the orange, they're going to talk about the tree in the fall, even though they don't have spring and fall in Papua New Guinea. And so that means here that the AI here will be limited for me to be able to communicate when I'm going to talk about the rainbow, how it's going to happen. And so I dive. And there is some research already, very recent research, that show that based on the way that the AI is designed, and so this is a very interesting part. The AI, the way it's designed, there is really 3 big components of it. There is the machine learning, which I don't like, the machine to learn. There is the natural learning processing that allows the machine to process language. And there is a natural language understanding. And when those 3 elements are combined here, which is absolutely fascinating, the AI, when it translates, take in consideration the linguistic sensitivity, take in consideration the cultural background. So when he's going to translate my colleague from Japan, he's going to translate understanding the relationship between mathematics and a Japanese math teacher in the translation, which is extremely fascinating. And that's really lead me to believe for many things that we say here today, because we did not talk about the technicality of speaking a language. Learning a foreign language tomorrow is going to be way more about being able to understand others. To be able, I love this quote from Wittgenstein, it's part of the chapter here. If a lion will speak, I will not be able to understand it. Because the reason why we cannot understand the lion is we cannot understand the lion culture. We cannot understand his existence. The lion is killing his baby, right? And so how can I understand that? Like it's totally out of the reach. So the reason I don't understand is because I just don't understand his existence. But with the support of AI, and with all the reason why we need to be able to be exposed to the culture of others, AI might allow us to go even deeper in understanding others. So learning a language, maybe tomorrow at unis, will be more about learning a culture and less being able to do the grammar, the conjugaison, etc.
Armineh, I want to take this back to the classroom. Do you see this happening? Do you see it with the children and these connections between AI and cultural intelligence?
Yes, actually, even though I teach 2nd grade, so there's tiny. So they don't have the same need for AI as you might need. But what they need is the other end, the cultural intelligence part. It's how to deal, because right now I have, I think, about 7 different languages, 7 different cultures from different continents. And all of these kids, they know how to talk to one another, and they're learning very early how to understand each other's cultures. They know who is celebrating what. They know how to respect that culture, and that is something that. So I'm at the bottom of it. I'm teaching them how to learn how to live with one another, and by the time they get to you and you, then hopefully.